Hi, I'm Bjarke and this is my underfloor heating system. So I made this myself and I built this, it's like a small cabin, and I put down some underfloor heating tubes when I built this house. And I was looking for a way to make hot water for the underfloor heating, and I was coming up with different ideas. First, I I put a copper tube around this this tube. It's hot, so that's not insulated. It's insulated up there. That's where it comes out of the wall, and yeah, the copper tube didn't really work the way I wanted to because I wanted to self-circulate to the tank. So I have the tank up here, and it wasn't really doing it that well because it was starting to boil inside the copper tube rather than rising up, because the tube, there was so many rounds of tubes, and and it was almost level, so it went very slowly up. So I came up with this idea instead to take two steel tubes, um, one bigger than the other, of course. So you have a small gap, maybe a bit less than 1 centimeter in between here. So it's full of water inside, but the water is not touching the actual exhaust tube here. So so this I just slide on the outside of the exhaust tube, and in that way the water can easily rise up. There's no tubes going through or anything. So I I also put a bit more. I mean, it's probably not necessary, but I put this in because there's a very hot spot on the back of the stove down here. So I just follow this through down here. So down here it's cooler, and it rises up and it gets hot and hotter. And in the top here you can feel that the hot water is circulating, because it's lighter than the cold, so it will rise up by itself. So that's pretty good. So it will not boil or anything, because it will have to heat up all this water to before it start boiling. So, and this is probably, it's probably, it's big enough. It could be smaller than this. I think this is around 40 liters. I reckon even 20 would be enough, because it doesn't heat up that much water. Because the main heat, because this is a very effective stove, which is good, but it put a lot of heat to the environment, because it has it's actually just the extra heat. Like I just pull out the extra heat from the exhaust tube here. So, and the way I made it was because there's a pump for the underfloor heating. I have to have a pump for that, and I don't want to turn it on myself. So I put this kind of thermostat, and you can adjust it on this screw. And right now it's about 30 degrees. It's set to 30 degrees, so you can see there's a small copper tube to the sensor up here on the top. And when it feels it's around 30, it will start by itself. I have a switch here. I could put the pump on always. If I'm not using the cabin, I can just put that on, and you'll make sure that the underfloor won't freeze in the tubes in the floor. So, and up here there's a small tank. That's just an expansion because when the water heats up, it will expand. So we need to have a tank here, and I just put this tube in so I could see the level. But it's actually, maybe it's a half a liter so maximum that it will expand. So that's way too big up there, but I think I have maybe 3 or 4 yeah, well, probably 4 or 5 liters, but that's also way too big, but that's okay. Doesn't matter really. And up there it's an open system, so if it should be boiling or something happening, the water will come out of that tube and down to that little basket I just put it if it should be dripping, but it's not. It's never dripping, never leaking any water there. And this copper tube is to get the air out of the system, so all air comes out of the system all by itself. That's pretty good, so I don't have to do anything there. And in the beginning I put a valve there to open to get the air out, but it's much better to have this tube up there. I put this connection like this because as the water heats up, it will stay up here, the hot water, and because it goes down here, it stops. It's kind of block the hot water from getting up to this expansion. And that just means, because I don't want to heat that up, I don't need the hot water up there. So the hot water will come up to this in this copper tube. So that's the only waste heat, you could say. Yeah, of course, maybe the insulation is not so brilliant, but it's just attempt to keep the water hot in there a bit longer. But there's nothing. There's no heat wasted in here because it's all just go to the room, and that's all right. And okay, so the hot water comes out of this tube in the top. Maybe you could see it up there. And in the bottom, that's a return. And I'll show you where it's connected to the pump in here. Some light. Okay, there's a lot of tubes, but I'll try to make it understandable. So this tube is hot from the top of the tank, and this one is the return. So the water will come down here through the pump and down through the underfloor heating pipes there. I connected these two because in the beginning I made 2 separate systems, but actually it doesn't really matter. I don't really need that, so I just put just bypass these, so it's all one connection, one string, one line, and return comes back so here. And I put this valve in so that the temperature will be pretty much constant, so that will feel on this tube, and if it feels it's cold, it will shut this valve, and that means the water will have to be pressed up by the return and come back down through the hot water here from the top of the tank. And when it gets warm again, this valve will open and it will just circulate. So yeah, it's probably not the normal way to connect it, but pretty much it's way most underfloor heating works. Yeah, that's a pump. It's a pretty good pump. You can see how much it uses. You can actually see how many liters. There's all sorts of adjustments. I could make it go faster if I want to, but there's no need to. I just put it on auto tab, that's fine. It'll just, and it's nice to have these temperature gauges, you can see. So that's the inlet, almost 30 degrees, and the return is a bit less. So after a while, it will pretty much be the same temperature after being heating up for a while. It's still morning here, so yeah. Let's see what the temperature is here today. It starts getting a little cold. Okay, so outside minus almost 5, and inside now it's 22 degrees. That's pretty good. Yeah, pretty nice. I think that's it.